Asheville, just living it up. And her friend said that's not really the case. And she didn't really drink, and that she was really responsible, by almost all accounts of her behavior. People have described her as like she was so responsible at her job. Older manager who's like 10, 15 years older than her is like, she's only 20, but she was a super responsible kid. I knew I could count on her. Her landlord said she was a great tenant, always paid rent on time, quiet, respectable, really clean.
That doesn't sound like the wild child type, does it?
No. But according to her friends, again, she did like to go out, have fun. She was always kind of changing up her look, always dyeing her hair, trying out new styles. She was into fashion. One minute she might look kind of preppy, and then the next minute she would do something really outrageous, look kind of goth or punk, like just always kind of playing with her look. And that's probably, like I said, the thing I kind of identified most with her is she was just a little bit older than me. And I just remember seeing her on the news and hearing her story and thinking like, she looked like the kind of girl that either I would be one day or that I'd want to hang out with.
Right.
And so she and her girlfriends were going to go out. A nice summer night, June. They were having a disco night at a bar downtown called Barcode, which later became like Asheville Music Zone and has been a couple of different bars over the years. But I remember when it was called Barcode, and they were having this disco night. And so Amber and her girlfriends were going to dress up, go out dancing. And her friends, in some, interviews said that this was like a thing that she was really looking forward to. Like she had gone out and bought like these sponge rollers so she could curl her hair up.
Yeah, she was going to do it up.
Yeah. And I guess there was some sort of costume contest. So she was really looking forward to like decking out for disco night, girls' night out. Sounds like a lot of fun. Amber and her friends had agreed that if they got separated, they would meet back at her apartment and they'd spend the night there. And Amber's apartment was nearby on Linden Avenue, which is just off Merriman Avenue. Friends say that Amber was the designated driver that night, and they agreed that if Amber changed her mind during the evening and started drinking, which was highly unlikely because she was never really much of a drinker, they told her that she just would call a cab and either come get all of them, or she would call a cab and she would get a ride home, and then they would all meet there. Game plan ahead of time, which, if you go out with your girlfriends, at least I know when I go out with my girlfriends, I don't know about you, Dylan, but this was something that we always did. We always had a game plan. We're not going to separate from each other. If we do, we're going to meet back here. You kind of think ahead on those things.
Is that the no chick left behind
Yeah,
code?
it really is. And,
okay.
And I think a lot of women do that because of situations like this. Amber left Barcode sometime around 3 a.m. There were conflicting stories about whether or not she had been drinking that night. Like some witnesses said, yeah, she had been drinking, and other people were like, I didn't really see her drink at all that night. She leaves out walking from Barcode, which is at 81 Broadway Street. She was last seen walking on Lexington Avenue, turning left onto Walnut Street. And some of her friends think that she may have been headed for a place called Gatsby's, which was another bar in town. I guess they frequented, and they had a friend's brother who was a bartender there. So it's kind of like a spot she was familiar with. So it seemed like she might have been walking in that direction. And they say, it was pretty hard. Imagine Amber being careless enough to walk alone at 3 a.m. because that's just was out of character for her. And, she just wasn't the type really to do that kind of thing. Pretty responsible. They already made this game plan, and this all kind of went against what the game plan was, to get a cab or whatever.
Yeah.
There were some other witnesses that say that they might have seen her out near Gatsby's. There was a pretty large group of people kind of, milling around on the sidewalk in front of the bar. 3 a.m. I mean, this is closing time. People have shut down. People are standing around hanging out talking. Nobody remembers hearing like a scream, like somebody grabbed her, anything like that. There have been some witnesses who say that they thought they saw her get into a truck. And there's been some dispute about the truck. Some people have said that it was a green truck. Others say it was a red truck. But from what I've been reading, those two colors seem to get confused, like in the evening hours.
In the dark? Yeah, I guess I
bit.
could see that.
She may or may not have gotten into this vehicle willingly, but again, nobody heard like a scream or anything suspicious. That was not ever really an issue, I guess. But by the time her friends started looking for her, it was around 4:30 or 5 a.m. So she's last seen 3 a.m., 4:35. Her friends can't find her. They go back to her apartment. They're knocking on the door. The The apartment door is still locked, lights off. I mean, she's obviously not there, right? She had never returned home. I guess they start to worry about her the next day, are looking for her at work, not hearing from her, whatever. Later that morning, so you have to keep in mind that was like June the 6th. So June the 7th, Amber was found off of Azalea Road with a single stab wound to her neck. And she was 20 years old at the time of her death. So some of the reports I've read with the detective Wellborn, who was on the case, said that she did have some defensive wounds on her arms, hands, and legs, and that they think the clothing she had on had been removed like after her death. It seems like she really fought for her life.
That's horrible.
Yeah. They think that she was murdered between 3 and 4. There were witnesses who said they saw a work truck backing into the location where her body was found, and that a man was seen standing beside the truck, but they didn't see Mrs. Lundgren or anybody else at the scene. 3, 4 in the morning, a work truck backs into this road.
A little suspicious.
Strange. People, downtown said they saw this older model pickup truck that could have possibly had toolboxes, maybe run along the sides of the truck
like
bed.
a utility bed.
Yeah, downtown, kind of getting similar reports with that. Suspect that was described, I guess, at the Azalea Road location where her body was found was being somewhere between maybe 25, 45, stocky build, medium height, dark reddish hair, and a beard. Which is pretty specific at like 3 or 4 in the morning.
Yeah, somebody got a decent look at him. See all that detail, really.
And the detective said there was no evidence that she had been sexually assaulted. Whoever killed her, the assailant, carried her body about 40 feet from the vehicle, threw it in a small drainage ditch where running water then covered her body. At the time, they weren't able to find any DNA evidence from the crime scene or from her body. Of course, this was 1997. DNA is probably still fairly new and kind of just being used at this point.
Oh, I'm sure. But, why do you grab a girl and just kill her? Typically speaking, that the motivation for that is, unfortunately, sexual assault, torture, and it's like sadistic shit.
We normally don't get into the business of like speculating what happened too often with this, but it seems to me that like either A, it was somebody who knew her because she did go out downtown quite a bit. She was kind of known, pretty girl. Somebody grabbed her that knew her, and maybe she willingly got in a vehicle with somebody that she knew was familiar to her.
Right.
Seems likely. Or like a situation where it was, just the right time, right place for this creepy person. You're a predator. You're out. It's 3 in the morning. You see a drunk girl or you see a girl stumbling around downtown. You grab her.
I can only imagine on these unsolved cases of any type that the family, how you could never know what or why or any of that closure you can get, or the person's caught, been punished, kept away from society, other people protected. I could just only imagine how those families feel and carry on for the rest of their lives.
Right. I know. And her friends.
And friends.
Can you imagine being a young person, young woman, and you go out with your girlfriend and then she goes missing and then she's dead? You would have to feel such guilt and like responsibility for that.
Oh, I'm sure. What if I'd done this? Or, I should have done this. Yeah.
There have been times that I've gone out with girlfriends and, I'm always the responsible one that's like, we are not going to separate. We are going to stay together. But I've had those rogue friends who just decide in some drunken state that they're going to go off and do something stupid, go off with some dude they don't know or whatever. And I am quick to rip them a new one. Like, that is so fucking stupid. You're going to end up dead.
You're cock blocking. Is what you're describing.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, no.
I'm like, I don't want your ass to be dead.
No, and that's a good way to end up dead.
I spent much of my 20s to be like, what are you fucking doing? Get your ass over here. And being like that friend that pissed everybody off because I wouldn't let them just run off with strangers.
You could have saved their life, possibly.
Yeah, I have to tell you a story about a friend that ran away in Savannah and had me freaking out for like 12 hours.
Definitely saved them some walks of shame, I'm sure.
Well, there's another similar case, and this is what I think is so interesting about this, is that Azalea Road. Amber Lundgren's body was found dumped out Azalea Road, 1997. But just before that, which I think was 87, Pamela Murray, and we actually spoke about her on our first episode, the Karen Stiles murder, because Richard Allen Jackson, there was a detective who thought he may have been responsible for killing Pamela Murray. Of course, that was never proven. It was just sort of a I guess speculation theory. But Pamela Murray was last seen at the Asheville Mall on Tunnel Road. Detectives believe that she was kidnapped from the mall, transported in her boyfriend's vehicle, which was the vehicle that she had driven to the mall. So she's kidnapped, forced in her, her own vehicle, taken out to Azalea Road and shot. And then the vehicle was later returned to the mall parking lot. And Pamela would have only been 23 at the time of her death. So somebody just randomly kidnaps her from the mall, takes her out, shoots her, brings the car back, dumps her body out on Azalea Road.
Crazy.
I mean, was it like a dumping ground for bodies?
Makes you wonder what the hell are these people thinking or why they do this shit.
Another unsolved case. And then that brings us to a third unsolved case. And now these may not have anything to do with each other, but it's just interesting because it's all these very young women murdered and they've never solved them.
Totally random seeming. Just yeah.
So Kelly Lane Smith was last seen downtown Asheville, 2006. Now, she was known to be a sex worker. I guess she'd had previous arrests for prostitution. And she was seen downtown Asheville around July 29th, 2006. And on the morning of July 31st, some workers from Highland Clays were on their lunch break and reported that skeletal remains were in the French Broad River behind 600 Riverside Drive. And additional skeletal remains were located about a week later in a storm drain at the intersection of Robert Street and West Haywood Street. Kelly was around 35 at the time of her death, but dismembered, just strewn all around Asheville. The river, storm drain, unsolved.
What the hell?
Yeah.
It's total insanity.
Yeah.
We've said this before. When you cut a damn body up, that's some other shit right there.
This is another element to this Kelly Smith story that just takes a turn for weird. And this has been reported in newspapers and whatnot. So, I mean, we can probably talk about it, even though the guy was never charged. This guy named Lewis Kyle Wilson, well, he was charged with the brutal assault and kidnapping of a prostitute. And the cops dubbed him as a person of interest in the 2006 murder of Kelly Lane Smith and some other similar assaults in the River Arts District. And so Wilson was carpenter, and he was arrested November 26, 2008 on charges of assault with a deadly weapon inflicting serious injury with the intent to kill and first-degree kidnapping after a woman claimed that he had forced her to perform oral sex and then stabbed her in the head on November 19th. And by her account, she bit his penis, and somehow managed to escape and called the police from a nearby house. The Asheville Police Department searched Wilson's residence and the surrounding area the same day. And now get this. They seized items including bags of hair, handcuffs, leg irons, guns, saws, and a small box of teeth. The look on your face.
That's insane. That's the craziest mix of stuff I've ever heard of.
Yeah. So on December the 8th, the APD executed a second search warrant on the area, identifying Wilson as a person of interest in the unsolved murder of prostitute Kelly Lane Smith, and in cases of two other prostitutes who had reported being attacked and raped in the same area in the past. Smith was last seen July 29, 2006, and then, of course, parts of her dismembered remains were found in several areas, separate locations, both less than a mile from Wilson's residence.
Yeah, it was probably the guy with the leg irons and the saw and the box of teeth.
Lewis Kyle Wilson actually ended up pleading guilty to lesser assault and drug charges and spent only 14 months in jail.
It makes you wonder how they get some of these plea deals sometimes.
Well, DNA testing did reveal that the hair and teeth found in the search of his home didn't belong to Smith. Wilson has not been charged with any crimes connected to Smith's murder or the assaults of the two other prostitutes.
Oh, it was somebody else's hair and teeth.
Yeah, I mean, who the fuck's hair and teeth you got?
But why the fuck you got somebody else's hair and teeth?
And why you got leg irons, handcuffs, saws, along with hair and teeth?
Some Silence of the Lambs shit right there.
Right? Well, I have to say the guy does have, like, crazy realtor eyes.
Does he?
You know the dude that does the History Channel, Aliens?
Yeah. The one with the hair?
He looks like that guy.
Oh,
His
yeah.
mugshot, he totally looks like that dude.
Oh, that dude looks crazy.
Yeah. We better not talk about him too much, or otherwise this Lewis Kyle Wilson's going to come track us down. I don't want my molars to be in his tooth collection.
Yeah. I don't want him to be like, well, they're not that guy's teeth or some other guy's teeth.
You know, and these unsolved cases may not have anything to do with each other, but I just think it's interesting that you have several women murdered in Asheville over the course of 2 decades, and they've been unsolved. And I don't know. I mean, there's the connection with Pamela Murray and Amber Lundgren being dumped off on Azalea Road,
Right.
which is like a pretty specific area to go dump a body.
Yeah, there's a lot of other places you can get to before and after there.
Well, you're in
obviously.
Western North Carolina.
Yeah.
You're in the mountains. There's
Right.
a lot of places around here you could probably hide a body. No one would ever find it.
Right, and a lot of times, anyone who's dumping a body more than once, especially, does it in an area they're comfortable with or
Yeah.
familiar with. And one thing all these definitely have in common is the fact that they seem pretty random. You know, the girls taken and when and why. The fact that they all remain unsolved. So it's very strange.